You're most welcome back to another edition of the Matchbook Weekend Football Podcast. Delighted to be joined by as ever, by Mr. Adrian Clarke, former Arsenal professional and current Arsenal broadcaster and all things Arsenal. And so he's in great mood at the moment, which is great. We're getting him at a really good time.
I'm smiling, but inside, it's absolutely dying. Destroying me. Yeah,
absolutely dying. Mark O'Hare from We Love Betting is also on board as well. And Mark, to you first, mate, we'll just do a very quick recap of last week's bets. You're pretty much the only one saying Brentford had a chance here on Friday night at the Brentford Community Stadium. Very good shout there, and Brentford plus 3/4 a goal at 1.78. They were a good price, 4.0. Obviously, that price actually came in on Friday with the Arsenal team news, but a good win for Brentford and a good start there for the pod as well.
Yeah, it was. I thought it was an opportunity for Brentford to make a statement. I thought the conditions are right. Friday night under the lights, full crowd in. Felt like banana skin for Arsenal, but I didn't expect it to be quite so comfortable for the Bees, who really sort of impressed on the opening day and showed us what we're likely to see throughout the season. So it was no secret for anyone who's watched Championship football. Brentford have been a very good footballing team, very good at the basics and very good going forward for quite some time under Thomas Frank, but it didn't look like Arsenal had watched any of their football from the last two seasons to know what to expect. So yeah, they got their just desserts.
Adrian Clarke, we'll get to Arsenal in a while, but let's have a look at the EFL picks last week. On your Matchbook Insights column last season, you had a 68% knock, 34 winners from 50 selections. You started off with a bang as well. West Brom, though, was a funny one. 3-0 up. I actually had tweeted it out that it was another winner. Didn't realise that the game was still on. It was like 17 minutes of stoppage time. Loon pulled back 2 goals, but it was a good weekend for the EFL.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, all of them came in, all the picks that we made. So that was happy days. The West Brom game was a bit twitchy, but I was very confident that they would have enough to see off Luton. And as they showed last night against Sheffield United, they are a real powerful team in the Championship. They're going to be a nightmare to play against. I think West Brom can earn punters quite a lot of money this season if you back them in the right way.
Yeah, and speaking of punters, and probably a good way to maybe maximise potentially your profits on backing these EFL selections or the Premier League selections we come up with today, shows we have a brand new sign-up offer at Matchbook, and it's a pretty decent one. It's kind of a 2-layered sign-up offer, so to speak. If you're opening an account at matchbook.com, if you bet 10 in your first selection, you'll get a 10 quid free bet thereafter. And after that, once you play through that, you get a free £5 ACCA on the next weekend's football. To avail of that, however, you've got to use the bonus code INSIGHTS15. Those are the numbers 15, 15, INSIGHTS15 when signing up to avail of this offer. And it's a pretty decent one. And obviously, we all love doing an all-weekend ACCA. Probably not backing unders, Adrian Clarke, at the moment, but we'll get to those in a while. Goal expectancy seems to be up at the moment. Also, guys, we're rattling through 4 Premier League games today. We're going to do a couple of EFL in Europe. If you want to get a recap of these bets, do check out insights.matchbook.com. Throughout the season, all of the lads' tips will be recapped there, and obviously they'll have their own weekend columns as well. And just one more further thing, we will ask, if you are enjoying this show and last week's show, and the show in general, please give us a thumbs up on YouTube if you're watching us there, and click the subscribe button. And also, if you're in your preferred podcast app, please do give us a 5-star review and say some nice things. It's just good for our egos and stuff and all that kind of area. And it will be very much appreciated. All right, Arsenal, Chelsea, Sunday, Emirates. Should be a good one. Gunners have won the last 2 here against Chelsea. Let's take a look at the betting currently as we have it at matchbook.com. You can back the Gunners here 4.6. Chelsea at 1.84. The draw available at 3.85. Arsenal getting 3/4 a goal start on the Asian handicap at 1.84. 2.25 is the main total. That will appear on site at 2.0 /2.5. Pretty low one. And Mark O'Hare, you were happy enough to oppose Arsenal last weekend, and rightfully so. But just in a larger scheme, Mark, there has been would we maybe suggest there's a bit of an overreaction to that result? Because we talked last week, and you kind of felt, pre-season that Arsenal still should be good for a top 6 finish.
Yeah, for sure. I don't want to rip up my ratings after one match day. a match day where I think, I still think Arsenal will be challenging towards the top 6, but there are issues to iron out, and that performance at Brentford was desperate in a number of manners, lacking hunger, fight, desire, physicality, kind of the sort of negative aspects which have blighted Arsenal for a few seasons now, coming back to haunt them really. But I think the biggest negative was they allowed Brentford to be so comfortable in that match. And yeah, you talk about overreactions, and you got the Rwandan president sort of tweeting after the game, and but things are pretty bleak.
It's a full-on trade.
It was fair play to him. But things are pretty bleak because you got Chelsea this week, you got Man City week after. Arteta's now favourite in the sack race, and you could see Arsenal being in the bottom 3 for the first international break. So things could get worse before they get better, but I still think over the course of the campaign they will improve. Adrian mentioned him last week. Thomas Partey, massive miss in defensive midfield. We don't know what the issue is with Aubameyang and Lacazette. We're told it was illness. Don't know whether they'll be involved this weekend again. Gabriel is out. So I looked at the 11 that played Brentford and still, well, how are they going to improve on that going into the game against Chelsea? It's obviously Saka coming into the team. Holding and Bellerin will probably say they deserve a start. I'm not sure they do. But it's not a great 11 when you're looking to play Chelsea. So initially I thought Chelsea probably looked a touch short, but they went off at 1.8 at Emirates last season. They won that game under Frank Lampard. If they can do it under Frank Lampard at that price without crowds, then I think Thomas Tuchel is more than good enough to engineer a result from Chelsea. Because I go back to the squads in the first 11s, there's a clear chasm between the two teams right now. Chelsea have moved clear of Arsenal, particularly in the last 8 months under Thomas Tuchel. Ridiculously comfortable against Palace on the opening day. They didn't have to feature many of their frontline stars. They're only going to get stronger. They're projecting figures under Thomas Tuchel alongside Manchester City in terms of performance data. Defensively, they're the strongest suit in the Premier League under Thomas Tuchel, not just in goals against, but also in performance data. Romelu Lukaku should be in or around the squad this weekend as well. So, their issue last season under Tuchel was kind of coughing up numerous goal-scoring chances. I don't think they'll have that issue this season. Whether they'll have that issue this weekend, I'm not sure. But yeah, it's hard to get away from Chelsea for me. Even at 184, I thought 180 they might look a bit short, but the more they get close to 185, I think on the nose they're a reasonable angle to take here. The bet I did promote was Chelsea to win under 4.5 goals, just because it will tip us clear of evens, which I always think is a nice price on an away team in a London derby like this, and just because the correct scores you get on side 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, 2-1, 3-1. Basically all the leading contenders in the correct score market. So if you do like Chelsea, it's just a way of sort of boosting that price a little bit further to something potentially more palatable for an away team in a reasonably big game.
And Adrian, Mark touched on it there regards Chelsea, such as that there was obviously no Lukaku last week. We should see him this week. No Havertz, no Kante. I'm probably missing a few more. No Chilwell. They have such depth. But are they a price here? Are they a value play at 1.84? Obviously, Mark says there we throw in under 4.5. We get it up plus money. But what are you thinking? Is it worthy of a bet here for you?
Look, it pains me to say it, but I do think that that represents decent value. The way that Mark's sort of coupling it with under 4.5 is attractive. You can't deny that, because Chelsea are way ahead of Arsenal in terms of where they are in the team's development. And there were no alarm bells on the opening day at home to Crystal Palace. They completely cruised to victory there. Didn't create bundles of clear-cut chances, but were in total control. Didn't really give Palace a sniff. Lukaku comes in, and like you say, maybe a Havertz comes in nice and fresh, and Conte too. So this is a tough game. It really is for Arsenal. They did meet, of course, a few weeks ago in a pre-season friendly, which I was at. And in that game, it could have been 5-5. It was a sort of a basketball game. I don't think it will be like that this time. But my worry for Arsenal is that Mikel Arteta at the moment seems really intent on squeezing up and pressing quite high with the fullbacks high. And it didn't work against Brentford because they were off it a little bit, and they were able to just clip balls into the front two, where they isolated the centre-backs and really destroyed them in that 2v2. And if Arsenal do that in this game, Chelsea are certainly more than good enough to play through the lines and get right at them much quicker than they might ordinarily expect to. So that concerns me. There is a chance here that Mikel Arteta just rips up his blueprint and just goes to a back three or a back five, like he did at Stamford Bridge. I would do that in his shoes to try to steady the ship here, because with the players available, the back four looks weak, and I fear that Chelsea will carve them open at will. So keep your eye on the team news potentially. If there's a back three or a back five, Arsenal did do the double over Chelsea last year, so that frustrated them. And then the match that Mark was talking about with Lampard when they won was the season before. But yeah, it's it's a difficult one. I can't look beyond Chelsea. Obviously, with Aubameyang and Lacazette out, if they do come back in, that increases Arsenal's goal threat, of course. But this is Chelsea; they don't give you very much. And Balogun looked a bit lightweight up there the other day. Not quite ready for that test. Smith Rowe was very good, and I think that Saka will come back in and he'll lift the team. But for me, this is tough, and I would have to fancy Chelsea. One alternative I'll throw into the mix. My selection would probably just be Chelsea on the nose, but Chelsea and both teams to score no, which effectively means Chelsea to win with a clean sheet. It's almost 3. It's 2.96, and Arsenal only created one really good chance against Brentford, which was excellently saved from Pepe. In the pre-season friendly, Arsenal created good moments, but didn't really test the keeper, and they scored from a sort of cheap set piece. So for me, Arsenal are up against it to score as well in this game. So for me, it screams sort of maybe a 2-0 Chelsea or something like that. I hope I'm wrong. I desperately hope I'm wrong. But you've got to look at this objectively, look at the form, look at the shape that Arsenal are in, look at the shape Chelsea are in. They're clear favourites.
Yeah, two different ways of attacking that. Adrian obviously suggested Chelsea and BTTS no at just under 3.0, and Mark said Chelsea under 4.5. Common denominator there is Chelsea, and I think it's a very backable price for the match with any podcast of 1.84. So let's put that as our selected bet. More than happy with that for the Blues there on Sunday afternoon. All right, let's move on. Another game on Sunday at Molineux, Wolves and Tottenham. And Adrian, I'll start with you here first, but let's take a look at the betting as Nuno returns to Molineux. You can back the Wolves 3.4, Spurs 2.4. The draw available at 3.25, which is 94 in fractional terms. Wolves getting a quarter of a goal start. Now the pair inside at 0.0/0.5. Half your bets at 1.87. And the total is kind of a middling one again, very similar to last game at 2.25 and slightly shaded towards the under there. All right, Adrian. Look, obviously we didn't get the Tottenham Man City game right. I think they probably Tottenham surprised not just us, but a lot of people in general. They're a sure enough price here, though. I mean, it's probably just based on one game. I'd be interested to see if they had lost to City, what kind of price it would be here. But what way do you feel this one is going to play out here?
It's a difficult one. It really is. My initial reaction here when I saw the fixture was Nuno will not want to lose this game. Nuno will want to go back to Molineux and make a point, and he'll be fired up. And look, if anyone knows the strengths and weaknesses of this Wolves side, it's Nuno Espirito Santo. So I think that is an advantage for Tottenham ahead of kickoff. But then you can flip it around and say that Bruno Lage, with a pumped up group of players that might feel a little bit hard done by in terms of what they got out of the opening day at Leicester, they will be equally eager, won't they, to get off to a good start in front of their own fans. This is the first game back for them, of course, with the supporters in. So, you can look at it two ways. There are also two counter-attacking sides. When two counter-attacking sides lock horns, it can often be a bit of a stalemate. But then when you analyse Wolves and what they did at Leicester, it's a different Wolves, and I thought it was a much more ambitious game plan, a much more expansive style. You just have to look at the XG. I think they won the XG. I know they lost the game. They won the XG 1.49 to 0.51. Had some big chances. Adama Traore in particular was dangerous. Couldn't find the finish. Raul Jimenez, encouraging signs from him. So I think they can create chances against Spurs, even though Spurs were solid against City. Wolves will be really eager, I think, to try and hurt them. And equally at the back, I didn't think Wolves looked that secure. Obviously, the XG would say otherwise, but Jamie Vardy was getting in down the sides of the centre-backs quite a lot. It's not the quickest back three you've ever seen in the world. And what do Spurs have? I mean, they have bottoms of pace. We talked about that, I think, in the pod last week.
Yeah.
Unbelievable speed up front. So for me, Spurs are always worth a goal on the break. Second half of the game when things open up, Spurs I think will really come alive. So for me, I've sort of plumped for a close game, but one where both teams would score. I can see both teams registering here. Wolves will show great ambition. Spurs have a big threat on those breakaways, and I think they have the tools in that speed to dismantle Wolves' back three at least once. So yeah, both teams to score would be my selection here, but I wouldn't put anyone off of going for the draw. It's a decent enough price, 3.25. For me, it might be one of those occasions where everyone just settles for a draw come the end of the 90 minutes. No big losers at Molineux.
Yeah, Mark, as Adrian said, we were quite unlucky with the both teams to score bet at the King Power last week, like third XG. But Mark, I think you're in agreement with Adrian here, as both teams to score is the best plan of attack here.
Yeah, I felt really aggrieved not to collect last week. I watched that Wolves game because I was really interested to see how they did set up and how they played, and whether it was all talk of Bruno Lage or whether they'd revert to style really, because it was a difficult game away at Leicester. But I was really impressed with them actually. Despite the profligacy, Adama missing that one-on-one was a massive blow. But I thought they equipped themselves really, really well. Really quite exciting actually. So hoping to see more of the same from Wolves. Spurs do go to Portugal on Thursday night in the Europa Conference League, but Nuno said he'll probably rest and rotate most of the team he played against Man City, which means Romero and Brian Hill will probably get starts. So whether they'll be involved this weekend, we don't know. But I think from a Spurs perspective, I mean, I can't really add too much because Adrian's already covered all the stuff I would have mentioned. But I think from a Spurs perspective, we do need to see something different from them this weekend. They can't attack this game the same way they did against Man City. They're going to have to be a bit more proactive in style. I know they're playing away, so the fans aren't demanding it, but I think you're Tottenham Hotspur going away to Wolves. I don't think you can just sit back and play counter-attacking football and use your pace. I think you do need to be a bit more front foot. So, yeah, I'm anticipating a good game. Both teams to score was 2.05 last weekend. It was 2.0 on the market. I think we're a little bit shorter. I think there's a bit of margin in there, is there not, Sully?
Yeah, not that much either. I'd say it's 1.94 on site. Yeah, there is a bit of margin. Obviously, we're recording this on Thursday. I'd say we could probably get it to about 1.96, and that's what I would suggest.
That's perfectly acceptable. This is the kind of game where we talked about it last week. Maybe in a couple of weeks' time, maybe after September's international break, if Wolves are playing Tottenham, considering what we've seen so far and what we're told about Wolves and how they're going to change style, BTTS won't be trading 1.96 in this sort of match. So again, what I said last week against Leicester, I'm trying to get on now while the prices are big before the market catches up and realises there's been a style shift.
Yeah, just one quick one on Spurs away from home. Now, we know that Nuno has got them fitter, better drilled. You have to be to hold off Manchester City. So that's a plus. But away from home, they were fragile last season. That we can't get away from that. The last 4 away games of last season, they conceded 9, Tottenham. So they come into the new campaign without a clean sheet mentality away from home. So I think that maybe backs up what we've been saying. It's I think Wolves have got a very good chance to register 1 or 2 goals here.
All right, let's hope we get the both teams to score over the line. Let's pencil that in at 1.96 at Molineux on Sunday. And yeah, Premier League wise, we're very top heavy, stacked with Sunday games this week as we look at St Mary's for Southampton against Manchester United. We'll take a look at the betting there. Mark, start with you here for this one. No surprise here, the Saints, good outsiders, just under 6.0. Manchester United at 1.66, which is 4-6 in fractional terms. 4.3, you can back the draw, and Southampton getting 3/4 of goal start. Good odds against their 2.12. And the total is 3, and very much shaded towards the under there at 1.7. All right, Marco, here, look, you get a lot of stuff right. You didn't get the Leeds and Manchester United right last year. As the matchbook guys let me know about, and they let you know about it on Twitter as well on Saturday. But these things happen. But Mark, you're getting involved with United this weekend, though.
Yeah. Even despite it being a big move on United all week, really, United opened up around 1.9 in the match odds market on Saturday. but that was long gone because United shredded Leeds and Saints crumbled at Everton as well. So by Saturday night, that was no longer available. I worry about Saints. Ralph Hasenhüttl looks a little bit forlorn there, not really getting a huge amount of support from above to strengthen his squad. He's seen key players leave, dwindling form for the calendar year, a very small squad to work from. A bit of doom hanging around St Mary's at the minute. Quite concerning, really, and you do worry for them this season, especially this weekend. I know Armstrong has signed and a wonderful finish away at Everton last week, but a collection of more kind of unheralded defenders, you could probably say, being kind. I think it might take time for that team to gel. I still think they need a lot more if they're going to be comfortably safe. So, yeah, concerned about them this weekend because United, I thought that was a real banana skin for them last weekend, but the way in which they just completely eviscerated Leeds, really, really impressive. You think Varane and Cavani are supposed to be available and in the frame this weekend now as well. Quite a formidable prospect. So whatever you think about Solskjaer, and I'm not his biggest fan, you just look at the collection of players who could be available for United this weekend and the way in which some of those players who barely had a break played last weekend, Paul Pogba in particular. It's quite frightening, really. So, I do worry about Saints. I think the 166 on United to win is absolutely fair enough. But just to get a better price, I'm taking the minus 0.75 Asian handicap hurdle start at 1.8. United's away record under Solskjaer in the Premier League, 54% wins. That implies a blanket odds price of 185. They're actually unbeaten away from home since January 2020 against Liverpool in the Premier League. Their away record at bottom half teams last season was 8-2-0, 8 wins from 10. They scored 22 goals in that time. They beat Saints home and away. Obviously, the most recently was one of those embarrassing ones for Saints, conceding 9. But they don't actually have the worst record when hosting top 6 teams under Ralph. But personnel-wise, they're a lot weaker on paper than they have been. So I just think this is probably a week too early for Saints. I think they still need a couple of weeks to sort of bed in what they're trying to do with the current squad because it looks pretty brittle, it looks pretty fragile. And if United show any sort of the kind of intent they did last weekend, this could get quite ugly.
Yeah, Adrian, I think everyone knows about Manchester United's away form last year, 26 matches unbeaten and the whole season as well. But with the Saints, it is disappointing. I think even pre-COVID, you were looking at this team and, even this new Europa League conference and all these this would have been an ideal competition. You would think that they would be looking for a top 10 finish, but it's just gone. It just feels a bit kind of desolate there at the moment. It's more a relegation kind of candidate than a European place.
Well, they've lost a lot of good players. They've sold up, haven't they? Yeah, they've brought 1 or 2 in, and they might turn out to be shrewd signings. And I do like Ralph Hasenhüttl, but as a manager, but yeah, the squad that he's got to work with looks very mediocre in Premier League terms, doesn't it? I mean, at Goodison Park, obviously they were competitive early on in the game, but you look overall, they created very little. The goal came from a turnover, a mistake where Keane gets caught in possession. The next 3 best chances were all from set pieces. The best chance in open play, apart from the goal, was sort of ranked at 3.7%, which is basically a long shot. So they didn't carve Everton open, and Everton are quite they're nervous at home, aren't they? With Rafa there, it was a new start. There was a chance, I think, to sort of put the cat among the pigeons. So yeah, not a great start from them. They can't keep clean sheets at home. We know that. Last one was in January when they beat Liverpool 1-0. So that's 10 games now at St Mary's with no clean sheets. Anyone that saw United play last weekend would fully expect them to score at least 1 or 2 in this game. And can I see the Saints troubling United's back four? Not massively, if I'm honest. And I also feel that Hasenhüttl, because of the 9-0 and because of some of the games that they've had against United where they've shipped goals, I think there will be a little bit of a focus there on not being ripped apart. So I think that Saints will try and keep it a little bit closer this time, but I can't see them keeping United at bay. So yeah, for me, United definitely worth a punt here. My way in would be United and under 3.5, because you still get a lot of scores in there, don't you? You get your 3-0, 2-0, 1-0, you get your 2-1s, etc. So I think that I don't see them running riot, but I do see them winning the game, Manchester United. So that'd be my way in, just to stretch the price out a little bit, because at 1.66 it's not a huge price, is it?
Yeah, and look, we touched on last week. If you did miss the show last week, a lot of these markets, you can pair them with the goals. It's a very kind of sports bookie / bet builder type market, but they are all available on the Matchbook Exchange now, and generally speaking, you get a better price. In terms of what we're going to select here, guys, I think, Mark, the Asian handicap, where you were most keen on here, I think it's not a bad idea. I mean, it's 1.8 currently and minus 3/4 goal, which will appear on site as Manchester United minus a half, which is basically just to win the game, slash 1.0. And so if it does land on 1, we get 50% profit. And let's be honest here, I think we could well envisage a 2-3-0, 4-0 type win. With United, I think they should have enough here. So that's 1.8. And like I said, it'll appear on site at 0.5 / 1.0. All right, like that one. Adrian, don't list like your one, obviously, either. I think they're obviously very similar bets. Very similar bets. All right, let's move on. Let's do Saturday game, 3 o'clock kickoffs, because they are back, and let's cover one of them. And Adrian, this is your choice, Brighton and Watford. It's a sneaky good game, I would suggest. And let's take a look at the betting. You can back Brighton there at the Amex at 1.78, Watford at 5.8. The draw available at 3.55. Very similar Asian handicap as the previous game here. Watford are getting 3/4 goal start here in the Asian handicap at 1.91. And the total is similar to the first two games today at 2.25. Adrian, good win for Watford last week. Of course, look, a good win for Brighton as well. But you fancy the Hornets here to get a result?
Well, do you know what? Sometimes you just look at a set of odds and you think that's wrong. That's too wide. The gap is too wide between Brighton and Watford, in my opinion, based on what we saw last weekend. Watford really surprised me with the way they went about their business, really front-footed and, well, not always on the front foot, but they're devastating on the break. And, the new signing looked really good up top, Emmanuel Dennis, before he limped off. I don't know whether he's going to be okay or not for this weekend. I think it's touch and go. But the guy who came on and replaced him stuck one in the top corner, didn't he? Chucho Hernandez. So they look enlivened up top. I just think about Brighton. Let's start with Brighton, who failed to win 15 of 19 at the Amex last season. Didn't exactly love it there. I know fans were.
Well, what about their XG? Come on. You know
they failed to win 15 of 19 at home. I know it was in front of an empty stadium, but even so, it doesn't make the Amex a fortress, does it? They only averaged around a goal a game at home as well, which is a bit on the low side. Yes, they turned things around well against Burnley, but every time Burnley had a corner, they looked like they were going to concede. Very fragile. And Watford are very, very good at set pieces. They're a big team, Watford. And they will cause opponents problems from dead balls this season. So that alarms me. I think that Potter is short at the back. He had to use Webster at right back. He started with Pascal Gross at left back. And in the end, he switched to Solly March. Now, Pascal Gross is one of the slowest players in the Premier League. So I can tell you now, he won't be starting at left back against Ismail Assar this weekend. That would be suicidal. So I think they'll have to change their team a little bit and get someone quicker. Solly March is a bit quicker, but he's not a natural defender. So flip it to Watford. They were really good. Ismail Assar was in devastating form. And away from home, Watford last season, they didn't win that many games, but they only conceded 18 goals in 23 away games in the Championship. So under Xisco Munoz, they're not an easy team to break down. They won't roll over. So, and for me in the Premier League, if they set up nice and solid, they've definitely got the players, particularly with Sarr. I know we keep going on about him, but they've definitely got the players to hurt opponents on the break. So I just think Watford can definitely get a result here. It won't be easy for them, but they absolutely can. And for that reason, I like Watford on the handicap. Watford plus 3/4 goal was the one that really stood out to me. 1.89 the last time I looked. I mean, obviously the draw on the side, and even So look, I just think that you can explain what the bet means, Sully. But for me, Watford on that handicap, a good value.
Yeah, with that 3/4, and we just touched on the previous game. On the opposite side, we're back in the favourite. Here's the underdog, and so if they lose by 1 goal, we only lose 50% of our stake, which is not a bad one. And as Marco here knows, it's a long season; it's not a sprint, and that's why these Asian handicaps are quite useful. Mark, on that, I think you're in agreement with Adrian here on Watford.
Yeah, for pretty much all the same reasons. He's done my work for me again, thankfully, Adrian. But just on Brighton's price, this has been a constant now under Graham Potter, because they have been trending like a top half team, at times a top 6 team, based on the underlying metrics, the expected goals, which is what drives a lot of these pre-match prices. And that's why Brighton's prices are always much tighter than what you'd probably imagine them to be. But that creates opportunities. I'm kind of caught in the middle with Potter. I love him. I love his approach. I love what they're trying to build and achieve. But they don't have the top level ability to sort of turn those promising performances into top 6 contention right now. And Adrian talked about the weaknesses. Ben White's sale has obviously left them a little bit short defensively. Lamptey and Byrne are missing as well. That's why they're having to sort of plug gaps at the back as well. So yeah, they looked all at sea for 45 minutes at Burnley as well, which is quite concerning. The set pieces were quite frightening, even as a neutral watching them coming in. So yeah, I think Watford absolutely have an opportunity here, particularly with Ismaila Sarr in that form. Ken Semmer on the opposite flank as well. They'll both attack those fullbacks and feel like they've got the run on them. But yeah, Brighton failed to win. Was it 15 games last season at home? Well, under Potter at home in the Premier League, they've only won 9 in 38. So 4 wins at home in 18 when welcoming bottom half teams. 10 of those matches ended in draws. I think this has got a big chance of a draw. 6 of those 9 last season. So yeah, I mean, Brighton rarely put teams to the cleaners, do they? Mopé, we expect a lot more from him, really. I don't think he's completely sort of transitioned into a Premier League class finisher so far. So I think whilst they continue to sort of miss chances, there's an opportunity for underdogs and lesser teams to get results off them, particularly at home. So yeah, I wouldn't touch Brighton at below 1.8 at home to Watford. And that's why I think the handicap is the best option, because if Brighton do win by exactly 1 goal, we're only losing half our stake. So I'd be surprised if they ran out winners by 2 goals or more.
Yeah, I really like this bet, guys. It's 1.91 currently at the exchange, on the matchbook betting exchange, and yeah, we should take that one. Before we get to the EFL bets, let's do a quick recap of what we have so far. For the Premier League, we've covered 4 games. We're going to take Chelsea at 1.84 away at Arsenal. We're going to take both teams to score, which is 1.98, and Molyneux as well as Wolves and Spurs. We're going to take United. We're on that United bandwagon, lads. Let's stay on it for this season if we can, for a couple of weeks anyway. We're backing them minus 3/4 a goal at 1.8, and the aforementioned Watford plus 3/4 a goal at 1.91. As I said before, all those bets will be up at insights.matchbook.com, and if there is any bit of confusion about those Asian handicaps, they'll be listed there, those markets as well. And furthermore, on insights.matchbook.com, if you look under the betting strategies tab, there's a full explainer there on Asian handicaps if you want more of an explanation. All right, EFL time. There's 3 selections. Adrian, Clarke, come to you here now for the first selection. First of all, mate, you've been on fire again last weekend. Coventry to beat Reading at 2.22. What's the story? Not a bad start to season for Coventry.
Not bad at all. No, very solid start. Beat Nottingham Forest, rather. I shouldn't say Notts. Nottingham Forest, Blackpool.
They love when they say that, though.
They absolutely love it, don't they?
Absolutely love it. Yeah.
So I had to correct myself quickly there. They beat Nottingham Forest and Blackpool. They did lose at Barnsley, but yeah, look, I rate Mark Robins. I think that he's got a good thing going there at the moment. The striker is playing really well, Victor Gyökeres. I think he's a Swedish player, and he's leading the line really well. I think they sort of needed a centre forward that had a goal threat, but could also hold the ball and be that pivot for the team. And it's giving Callum O'Hare, wait for it, the Solihull Messi, Callum O'Hare. It's given him a lot of space in that hole at the 10, and he's on fire at the moment. So yeah, Coventry, I expect them to be quite strong at the CBS Arena this season. So yeah, I like them, and really my selection here is based partly on price, because I think that again it's a generous price at home to a Reading side that for me are all at sea at the moment. The club's in a little bit of turmoil. They did have a sort of an embargo hanging over them. Ogiavaria, who's one of their best players, is out with COVID. Lucas João, who is their most dangerous player, is out with a hip injury. They sold Michael Elise, which leaves Swift. John Swift is a good player, but I don't think he can do it all on his own. Young player called Femi Aziz has been playing well. But yeah, for me, Reading are not defending well. They've lost a lot of their threat up front. I think they're up against it against Coventry. So yeah, Coventry on the nose, 2.22. Yeah, I'm gobbling that up.
All right, I'd like to hear it. Marco, how your selection of the Championship? Middlesbrough, they lost during midweek there to your beloved QPR. Good one from Neil Warnock there. But you're getting with them on the draw no bet marker, which is displayed as 0.0, and they're away at Derby County this weekend.
Yeah, it's a price thing, really, but there's a few sort of emotional kind of tangents I like to sort of build into it as well. Derby's issues have been well documented. Club in crisis. Wayne Rooney's got a bit of a thankless task there, trying to keep them on the straight and narrow. They'll be over the moon, really, with 4 points from their first 3 games, although the fixture list has been quite kind. Huddersfield team who will be in and around the bottom 3 also had a COVID-affected preparation, and you've got newly promoted Posh and Hull as well. So this is going to be a lot tougher for Derby. They were second best against Huddersfield, desperately impotent against Posh, despite leading 1-0 and then getting wiped out in stoppage time, 2-1 defeat. And then midweek against Hull, improved performance, it must be said, but it was a bit of a nothing game, really. So Colin Kazim-Richards, their only fit striker, was injured against Posh last week. They had to apply for special dispensation to sign or register Sam Baldock, who scored actually in midweek. I was guessing how match fit he might be after kind of being out of the game for a while. But other than that, they've just got a teenager, Jack Stretton, who scored last weekend on the books, and he was on loan at Stockport in the National League earlier this year, which kind of goes to show how far they've regressed in terms of squad. Failed takeover bids, lowest crowd ever at Pride Park in their opening home game of the season. Just kind of shows the mess that they're in really at the moment. And I just think with such a quick turnaround, Wednesday to Saturday, they'll be on a bit of a high after winning. I just feel this is the kind of game which might bring them back down to earth with a bump, playing Middlesbrough, a Neil Warnock team, a team who are dogged, physical, direct, will put any team under the pressure in this division. Middlesbrough under Warnock rarely give teams an easy ride. Scraped a point off Fulham on the opening day. Dominated Bristol City last weekend, it must be said, and then Rangers played a blinder last night at the Riverside as well. So I felt Borough didn't deserve to lose against QPR, in fairness, on the balance of play. An unlucky own goal went against them, a few key moments. But this is a kind of area where Borough do their best work. 6 wins from 9 away at teams in 16th and below last season. They scored twice or more in 6 of those games as well. Uche Ikpeazu absolutely dominated the QPR defence last night, just barging people out of the way. And I think him against the Derby defence, or Derby team overall, who will be leggy after this. They've not got an opportunity to make too many changes. Borough don't really either, in fairness. They've got a few injuries too, but I just think they're a bit more streetwise. I can't see Borough losing this game. And I think the +0 Asian handicap at 1.87 is fair enough for a match where you don't expect a team to lose.
Yeah, absolutely. It covers our bet there. That if it is a draw, we get our money back. Adrian, Clarke, League 2 for you. Northampton to beat Rochdale 2.2. I think there's some COVID issues with Rochdale. You guys were chatting at
yes.
show. Is that some of the price player?
Yeah, again, I think it's a very good price. Take it while it's there. Rochdale have got 4 players out with COVID. I think most of their midfield is missing. It's not been a good start for them anyway. I think they've drawn 1 and lost 2. Behind the scenes, all sorts of things going on. I think there's a sort of takeover bid in the offing. It's a big distraction. We always get a team that seems to be in a bit of crisis, and it's a bit of a mess. And unfortunately for Rochdale, it feels like they are that team at the moment. I mean, they couldn't even beat Scunthorpe at home. Scunthorpe are awful, really bad. That was a 0-0 draw. So yeah, not a good start for Rochdale. And they are a footballing team, Rochdale, under the new gaffer. But footballing teams often come a cropper at Northampton, who are just strong and aggressive and powerful, play better football than they used to under Keith Curle. The new manager, John Brady, has sort of got them playing slightly more expansively. And I just think Northampton are the type of team that could swap them aside. It's been a really strong start for them. 2 games played in the league only, 2 wins. No goals conceded. They knocked Coventry, who have just been praising out of the Carabao Cup, which was a real morale booster. And potentially, crucially, they've had the week off. I think they were due to play Harrogate, and which means they didn't have to play in midweek. So Northampton come into this nice and refreshed. And I think they're ready to sort of inflict a lot of pain on a weakened Rochdale team. They're not full of goals, Northampton. That's the one sort of question mark at the moment. But they could come. So yeah, Northampton for me to bully and to beat Rochdale 2.2.
Yeah, to bully and to beat. Marco, here you're one European selection this week. Comes from the Allianz Arena on Sunday night in Ligue, and it's Nice versus Marseille. Even both teams to score 1.8. Look, it's only 2 games into the season, but a solid start for both sides this year.
Yeah, there might be 2 angles here. I'm hoping the market continues to give us a bit more juice, because there might be an opportunity to get Nice plus a quarter on side at anything bigger than 1.7. They made a strong start under Christophe Galtier, obviously led Lille to the title last season in France. They have spent money, but obviously not anywhere near sort of PSG standards, just made some smart recruitment. They're bankrolled by a British billionaire, Jim Ratcliffe, or his company at least. And you looked at the midfield last weekend, Lemina, who came in the summer, Pablo Rosari as well, absolutely bossed the game against Lille, the champions, won 4-0. Kasper Dolberg, making his first start of the season, had a major impact. His partnership with Amin Gouiri up front looks a really nice fit. And then on the flanks, you've got Justin Cliver and Calvin Stengs, 2 summer signings, who Stengs particularly is really quite exciting. And you just know that Christophe Galtier teams are normally quite well organised, quite strong defensively. And I do think they are undervalued against this Marseille team. Outsiders at home in the Allianz Riviera does kind of appeal to me, particularly if we're getting a quarter-goal start. Nice were much a better team against Rams on the opening day as well. So they made a solid start. But yeah, Marseille have made big moves in the transfer market. I think Conrad De La Fuente and Cengiz Ünder have been probably the stars of the show so far of the new signings. They've been a really fun team to follow. I don't think they've been as convincing as the results suggest under Jorge Sampaoli. There's always a bit of chaos around his sort of teams. They're always very entertaining. Came from 2-0 down against Montpellier on the opening day. Bit of fortune about that win, but last weekend kind of luck bounced back against them. They were leading 2-0 against Bordeaux and drew 2-2. But Sampaoli's 13 games in charge of Marseille, averaged 3.38 goals, 7 of 13 gone over 3.5 goals, 9 of 13 have seen both teams score. Marseille have scored in 11 of 13 and conceded in 11 of 13. I think this could be a really lively, watchable affair. They normally are down the Côte d'Azur. So, yeah, expecting goals, expecting cards, expecting entertainment. But I think Nice are undervalued. But, yeah, in terms of the price right now, both teams to score appeals at 1.8.
Yeah, in terms of entertainment, I don't think the Marseille fans are missing Mr. Villas-Boas anyway in the last couple of weeks. All right, guys, we've locked in 8 selections. There 4 from the Premier League, 3 from the EFL, and 1 from Ligue 1. Marco, out of all of your selections, which one is the best bet?
Yeah, I like Nice, Marseille at the weekend. I think Marseille going forward have been really quite exciting this season. That's where their strengths are at. And we know Jorge Sampaoli will never take a backward step with his teams. And I just think Nice clicked into gear last weekend, really quite exciting what they've got going forward in midfield and on the flanks as well. So I expect them to score, but I also expect Marseille to get on the score sheet as well. And as I said earlier, I don't think this price would probably be around if these two played each other in 6 weeks down the line.
Adrian, Clarke, what's your top selection for the weekend?
I'll be playing the vast majority of these myself. Confident in a few of them. Do you know what? I'm going to take my best bet as the ultimate jinx bet, and that is Chelsea to beat Arsenal. It hurts me to do it. I don't want to, but I have to look at it objectively and say that Chelsea are way ahead of where Arsenal want to be at the moment. They look a superior outfit from back to front. I think a depleted Arsenal are going to find it hard to breach them. And based on what I've seen in pre-season and last weekend at Brentford, I just don't see a clean sheet there for the Gunners. I think that there's a potential for them to be sliced open. So yes, Chelsea on the nose is my best bet. But if it loses, I'll be happy. So it's a win-win.
You have a pretty good knock with these best bets, mate. I don't really know I know what you're trying to do, but yeah, all right. Fair enough. All right, guys, we're out of time. Thanks to Adrian and Mark as ever. I'll be back again next Thursday. I see a lot of live comments in this morning. Very much appreciate the interaction with you guys during the show and after the show and on social media over the weekend. Like I said, if you're watching us now on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe. Or if you're listening to us on the podcast, please leave a preferential review on your preferred podcast app. Until next Thursday, have a great weekend.